Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Catherine.
Okay, just wanted to hear that you're there, that you can see us.
Yes, I can see you. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Very well. If you would want to speak or do a contribution during this training, you need to unmute yourself. So I want to take this opportunity and welcome all of you. Christine, Dorcas, Admin, Carlo, Mille, Hawa. Others are still joining us, but we had given them a few minutes to join us, which has not happened. So they'll find us on the way so that we stick on the timeline for today's training on emotional intelligence. Let me take this opportunity to welcome Madam Catherine Wamwangi. Catherine Wamwangi is a renowned certified coach, and she'll tell you more about herself. Catherine, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, welcome. Take our participants through today's training. Let them know the nitty-gritties of emotional intelligence, especially during these trying moments of the new normal, where the HR, those in admin, are expected to deal with difficult situations and calm emotions amongst the people who work for us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? I hope you've had a good week and you're looking forward to new learnings, new takeaways, what we're going to share. And I'm sure that it's going to be as interactive as it can be. We all know that this is a new way of getting to meet, getting to learn. We don't know how long it's going to go on, but we've continued to embrace technology and in the virtual places that we can all be able to connect. So I'd like to thank Dan for giving me this opportunity to facilitate this training. It's more of us being able to discuss the good, the bad, the ugly of emotional intelligence and what we take out of it as individuals. How can we apply it at our respective places of work or even in the society, at home? I believe that it has a place in every part of our lives. So as Dan said, my name is Catherine Wamwangi. I'm a HR practitioner. I do strategy, also in finance. I love training, and I'm also a certified coach. I can see a couple of you whom we've interacted in the past. I think all of you actually, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be like just a continuation of all the topics that we have had. And I like the way Dan has put the topics in the terms of flow, that they just interrelate. We are building blocks one after the other. So all that skill that we are learning, all those new experiences that we are sharing, how have we been able to use it for our benefit at our workplaces and also for ourselves? So I also train at the College of HR, Institute of HR. So if you're there, if you're doing strategy or if you're doing coaching together with counseling, you'll actually find me there with a red pen this time round, just making sure that you can pass exams and you can get a new skill. So that is me. I hope I'll get to.
Hi, Shem.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
fine, thank you.
Then mute your mic. We
You
can
are
hear you.
attending today's training?
Don't know
Oh,
why he's
okay.
muted.
Okay.
Dan, can hear you.
Yeah, I'm muting.
Yeah, that's okay. No
Yes,
worry.
sorry.
There you go. So I guess he's following up on his participants, so that's fine. So we are few of us. We are how many? We are 8 so far. Maybe it's a good time for us to introduce ourselves, your name, and maybe the industry that you work in, and your expectations for today's training. in no particular order, but if you want me to pick an order, then I'll be very happy to pick an order. Anyone? Can start with Hawa then. Hawa? You unmute yourself. And then we get it going. I'm sure you have your glass of water, or you have your favorite beverage that you're taking. So just to get us into the momentum of going. Hawa? Or Caro, or admin, I'm sure that's you've got another name. Dorcas, Christine, Mary. Anyone to go first?
Okay, good
Unmute
morning.
yourself. Morning, Caro. How you doing?
I'm very good, very good.
Good.
And yourself?
I'm good, thanks. I had a good week, a busy week.
Can you
Happy
hear
to be
me?
here. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I'm Karen Githaka. I can't wait to listen and learn on emotional intelligence. As every day is a learning day with a new environment, especially what is happening currently. I work in an education institution, and for me, I'm pleased for you, Catherine, to take us through emotional intelligence. Because for me, as working in an education institution, I deal with all scope of ages, year groups. And so it's very important for me to remind myself of what is required of me and refresh my mind. And I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic, very good. Yeah, refresh our minds how to deal with all ages around the diversity group of students that you deal with, and also interact with your peers, your seniors, and also maybe people that you lead. Yeah, that's a great expectation. Thank you, Carol. Warm welcome to you. Dorcas, can unmute yourself. Dorcas,
Good
can you
morning.
hear her? Morning, Cara. Christine.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm glad to
Good.
be here.
Yeah.
And I work for an oversight institution. And I look forward to learn more on emotional intelligence because of dealing with different people, people from different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to learning more and understanding more.
Great. That's a great expectation. Working for an oversight institution, how do we make sure that we oversight, dealing with all sorts of people, maybe different stakeholders? So yeah, a great expectation, no doubt. Next, who's on the queue? Dorcas, Hawa? Anybody else?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good, thanks. Mary?
Okay, my name is Mary Ken, and I work in the floriculture industry. Today, I'm expecting to learn more how to design feelings, my own, other people, and how to be able to label them appropriately.
Great expectation. Designing feelings. Do we design them? Are they naturally coming to us? And how do I appear in front of other people? How do they see me? My perception of them, the reality, all those things. Really a great expectation. Admin, that's how we read your name on the screen. Hawa, Dorcas. Anybody else? Expectations? No? Stella, welcome. The expectation for the training? Okay. That's good. Okay. So with those objectives of the what Dan had sent in terms of what we were going to learn and what is expected out of this training, I think we fully covered it in terms of where we are at now, where do we want to be, how do we deal with emotions because they are part of our everyday uh, discussion and everyday how we interact with people. The basis of having lived in this world and living in this world is communication, because we communicate to relay messages, we communicate to voice our feelings, our concerns, we communicate to make sure that we can express our feelings, and people can give us feedback. So I think that is very, very important. And even as a coach, when I coach a lot amongst all cadres of people, whether it's at the workplace, whether it's a consultancy that I'm doing, whether it's a training that I'm running, one of the key issues that always comes up is how do we appear in terms of our emotions. Just think through of this week. Think through this week. What have you done? How have you interacted with your colleagues? How have you interacted with your family members, your friends, people, even where you went to get a service? How was that kind of interaction? How did you feel? How did they make you feel? How did you leave them feeling? You get what I mean? And I'm reminded that one of the times that we really started talking about how people appear in this country is when the unfortunate incident of the former Deputy Chief Justice. You remember, guys? You remember where she pinched someone's nose, and it became, there were all sorts of jokes going around, but there was also the seriousness of how do we deal with people's emotions? How are we perceived? People with power, people in authority, how do they present themselves? So because for many, many years we have seen that people can abuse power, people can really go out of their way and use raw power, raw authority to get over others and to trample over others. But even as a leader, how do you make sure that even when I have all this authority, all this power, things that I can do without anyone questioning me to a certain extent, how do I just make sure that I leave people feeling that they've been treated in the best way that they would have liked to be treated? When you think of people going to a restaurant, getting service from a waiter or a waitress, people going for wanting to go through to one place to another, getting into a building, having to go through security checks and stuff like that. So it's all how we perceive the other person and how emotionally they are going to be appealing to us. So the topic of emotional intelligence is so timely, will never go out of fashion, will be intertwined in every discussion that we will be having as human beings. So how we appear in coaching, we say we have a dark side and we have a bright side, and when our dark side is coming out, how do we hold back and make sure that it's not going to cause unnecessary distraction or unnecessary animosity among the groups that we are appearing as. And of course, I would like us to think through this morning in terms of our workplace. How do we make sure that we have healthy workplaces, um, due to the fact that emotions will always be there, day in, day out, day in, day out. I'm sure we've all had some run-ins with someone. We've had run-ins with a senior member of staff, a peer, a junior. We've even had run-ins at where you're impatient going through security and you're late for a meeting, or running with the police or stuff like that. Just how would you have handled it any better? Or even when you think, I'm going to go to that office, and that office, the person who mans that office is so unapproachable. How do I just make sure that I muscle enough energy for me to be able to go through that. So it's all about emotions, how we go through them. How do we make sure that whatever? And I like all the emojis that have been put up in the world. Now we have all sorts of emojis. We have sad emojis, we have funny emojis, we have happy emojis, and when do we use them? And people just are able to express themselves, in terms of that. I want to start with a story, and it's a true story. I won't mention the whatever. A certain company, a big company in this country, big of the biggest, was trying to had feedback about their culture, and the way they are good brand. Everybody wants to work with them, and then one day they just decided that we are going to look internally what is the problem. We are a good company, everybody comes to buy our products, our services, we are ahead of the game and stuff like that. Then it came to a point of you know they became too big, they started muscling. You call them, the service is not up to scratch, and they do it at their own time and stuff like that. So they needed to look internally what was happening, and lo and behold, they, as it goes, they put in a small committee to try and demystify all that. And because there are all these companies, all these people who have big money and they can spend in big hotels to try and have a 2-hour meeting in terms of, let's get away from the office where nobody is going to discuss to disturb us. Let's go and sit down and start looking through things that would help us come back to where our culture should be, because they have a good culture, but it was just starting to erode in terms of what needed to be done. So the consultant who was consulting in this project decided, I am going to I am going to see how you appear even to the public, even the people who have been called to this committee. So at the entrance of the hotel, they came in. So the way you come in, like the meeting is at 10, and sometimes we are very not good at keeping time. So when you come in and you saw, well, at the security, so they all came in. Someone early, the ones who are late to know what happens. Fungua, I mean, what do you want to check? I am already late. I am coming from this company. Why you? And they were a committee of 9 people who are going to be the champions of delivering the project. 5 of them had actually antagonized the security guards because they were late, and just trying to say, don't you know who we are? We are here for a meeting. Already my colleagues have gone, there they are, and stuff like that. Do you relate with these kind of people? And when it was played back, so the consultant went and they started the meeting, and then in the afternoon said, let's look internally at who we are as individuals, and played back the video. You can imagine what kind of discussions went round. So it is alive to the fact that you guys say that maybe munaonewa huko nje, people just don't want, people are jealous of us, people are envious and whatever. But we say, please check the reruns of the video. The 5 of you who had different sorts of altercation with the security guard, and we are the champions, we are the lead champions of doing this. Does that relate with you at your place of work? Even when you go to a certain place, and I know all of us have become impatient with services or with a person who's giving the service. And again, you can actually be justified to get impatient with them. But even in that point of impatience, how do you appear? What do you say? You know, what do you say? Because again, you can go to get a service and the person serving you has a bad attitude, has a wrong attitude, isn't it? And I'm sure you can all attest and relate to that, where you say, I wanted the best, I was at my best behavior, I carried my best attitude, but the service that I got from that person was so wanting and they made me feel so bad. I had to voice it back to them. But even voicing back to them, how do we do that? Hmm? Can you relate with that? Anybody who would like to give us an example or an experience where they were in their best behavior, best attitude, they had the best interest of heart of everybody else, but the other person just drove them crazy. Anyone? Anyone? Mary, Evelyn, Sonia. Anyone? Stanley? Oh, you're just okay. So the objectives is what we have said in terms of what we want to do. I would like to start with some statistics. I'm a lover of statistics and research. I like to go in and see what is happening around so that we know that whatever we are discussing has been tried, tested, and it is important for us to drive the motion in terms of where we are. If you do a Google search, even right now, on emotional intelligence at work. And I say that work because we'll take it in the context of we want to go back and become better employees. We want to go back and become better individuals. You will get about 2 or 4 million results. Mind staggering, you know. So it's something that is important to them. And in October 2017, which is about 3 years, 4 years ago, there were about 120 searches on emotional intelligence, and the number grew to 185 million searches by December 2019. I wonder what they will be by December 2020, or even now where we are. This means that more people around the world are increasingly curious on how they grow their emotional intelligence. Curious, you know, and in coaching, there's something we come and say, you must be curious. For you to be able to get ahead of the challenge of the problem that you're going through, you must be a curious person for you to be able to overcome what is happening. Because curiosity actually did not kill the cat. It just made the cat more ingrained in terms of, I want to solve this problem, but how do I solve it? It means that I must be able to use my emotional intelligence. I must be able to use the inherent potential that I have for me to be able to go in. In the world of artificial intelligence, we're in a world where the artificial intelligence, and I'm sure we're all talking about AI right now, especially in this global pandemic of COVID-19, is we need to use systems more. There will be more clamor for us to use artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, for us to be able to get quickly around the new norm. It is now apparent that machines, robots, did you see in Kigali last week? I saw a clip going around where robots are the ones who are trying to help in the pandemic so that the healthcare, the frontline healthcare workers do not contract the disease. So they're trying as much as possible to use AI. Will do what human beings can do with much more speed and efficiency. We agree? But even when that is all said and done, that AI is going to replace a lot of things, do we still think that machines will replace emotions? You know, and we are all talking about all these jobs which are going to be lost, all these careers that are going to be made redundant in the world because they don't belong anywhere anymore. My question always is, as a HR practitioner, thinking through my career and how I want it seen in 100 years. Are we going to become redundant? What's going to happen if all the work from recruitment to onboarding to performance management to everything else will all be done online through AI? So what are we going to be doing as HRs? Have we thought about our career? Is it endangered? Will we still survive? Anyone? Let's help ourselves here. Let's justify our jobs. Let's justify our salaries as HRs. Anyone? Christine? Carol? Do you think that our jobs will still?
May I try to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I think not really, because human resource has since moved from personnel into more of human angle. And in this world, even in our working institution, we are dealing every day with human beings. So basically, I think not yet. I think we just need to go an inch higher on learning new things and learning new way of approaching HR, because HR, I think every day is dawning to me that things are changing every day. So I don't know what your take is, but I think if it's still currently as personnel where you deal with files and paperwork, that can be done virtually. I mean, and but currently as where we are right now, the human angle is more weighty. And I think the ball lies to us as HR to see it in a different view where we need to approach HR in a different angle.
Approach HR in a different angle, where we came from personnel. I'm sure we all come from, the days of personnel are long gone. What we have right now is HR, strategic HR, business partnering. So my question is that Wakare is saying that we have moved and we have moved miles away. There've been a lot of success in the area of HR, but does that mean that our jobs are still protected 100 years from now? Or even let's talk about 10 years from now. Let's 100 years, none of us will be here. But let's even talk about 10 years from now. How do you see HR evolving? Will we still be needed in organizations? It's a gig economy right now. And how are we going to appear? Are we all going to be, everything will be robotic? Anyone? Mhm. Is it going to be robotic? Anyone? Anyone? I think for me, how I see it is that a couple of things are going to change in terms of systems enhancement, because right now we are saying that work is a space and not a location, and maybe most of us have been caught a bit more flat-footed in the area of we needed to quickly go work at home, but now we see people going back to the office. And when I ask people, do you want to work from home? Do you want to go back to the office? Some people say outrightly, I want to go and work back in the office. Some people say I want a blend or a hybrid of both, and some people say I prefer working from home completely. I don't know what your view is, but as long as we are still going to be dealing with people. People need to come and deal with us, and how we communicate back to them is still essential. So there's still a fraction of people having to come and deal with HR face to face. Most of the services can be dealt with online, but majority of the important issues will still need to be dealt on face to face. How many times do you never go back, you never come to HR office to pick your pay slip, do you? It is all online. Performance management is all online, but right now what we are saying is that how do we onboard? Those are some of the things. So we need to just to upskill and make sure that we are getting into that space. But even however, we still have an advantage over machines is because of our emotions, how we relate with the other people. And all careers, every profession that is there, will still need to make sure that we relate with people. Emotional intelligence is one of the key skills listed by World Economic Forum. If you follow them, if you don't follow them, please make sure that you follow World Economic Forum. It is such a great place to just get a lot of information in terms of what's happening around the world. One of the top skills needed by employers, it is quickly becoming a need rather than a secondary requirement in the corporate world today. You know, where we said, oh, you come, these are our values in this organization, we don't want anything else. But we know that emotional intelligence, and when we look at it deeply, you will see that it is something that is actually needed in the organizations right now. So We are talking about, I love the fact that one of the things that the industry 4.0 has come sooner than we whatever. The fourth industrial revolution is already here. We thought that it would come years ago, many years later, but in a heartbeat, it is here with us, and that is what we are looking. The advancement of mind-boggling changes that bring together advances in digital, physical, and biological technologies, industries earmarked revolutions to the future and generate billions, if not trillions, for the global economy, includes that gig economy, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. That is where we are right now. Everything is so online. Everything I want to order, I can order it in the click of a button. My phone now, your smartphone is everything. You are walking with your life through your smartphone. Everything is just, I want to buy a book, you buy it, whatever. I want to read a book, you can read a book on your phone. I want to transfer money, that is it. I want to apply for a job, you apply for a job online. So things in a heartbeat. We thought that industry 4.4, the fourth industrial revolution, would come many years later, but it is already here now. So as we look towards the future, it raises the question, what skill will we need in this brave new world? And we call it a brave new world because everyone has an opinion. Everybody has something to say. Everybody is trying to get ahead of the other person. Companies are trying to get ahead of the other person. We have this technology today. Can you imagine, like, maybe you bought your phone last year, um, a certain brand of phone, and then when you go to the market now, that brand is no longer available. By the time you're purchasing this brand, the people who work behind the scenes are already looking at getting in a new brand of the phone. So things are changing too fast. Things are becoming too obsolete too quickly. Even before you settle with one brand of something, the next one is already out. And then the clamor for us to get all these things is alive. But how do we contain ourselves in terms of what is important to me? What do I need to know? And how do I need to move it? And that's what organizations are saying. What is important to us? What is our core business? People will continue being a core business. The kind of services that we are offering, but how are they being they being received by the people that we uh, are supposed to be buying our products? So that is where the thin line lies. We have a good product, but how do we get it to the market as quickly as possible for people to be able to pick them and for us to be able to stay ahead of the market? And I'm sure that is what you're grappling with. And all this comes together when we put minds together during this 4.0. So as you can see, without any order of importance, is that the top 10 skills, and I'm sure maybe even when you look at your competency mirrors at your place of work, are they really things that you have said? I look at adverts nowadays a bit more critically, even if it is just a driver's position. For me as Catherine, if you have advertised that job, I'm very keen to seeing what kind of skills and competencies you have for that job. And if you have not actually gone back, let me just challenge you here. If you have not gone back to your organization and looked at your competency mirrors, competency pillars, sorry, of what you need for every position, then it's time for you to start thinking, well, at leadership level, these are the competencies that we need. These are the skills that we need, At 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 management level, these are the competencies we need, and this is what we need to have. But many of us are just not moving the agility that needs to move, and we want to wait for the Fortune 500 companies for them to come and say this is what is needed, and then we copy. Be drawn into your own business, because then it will be much more realistic in terms of looking at, I have a small business, even as an individual, what kind of skills do I need coming in? So problem solving skills, critical thinking, creativity and agility, people management skills, coordinating with others, that's collaboration, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation skills, and cognitive flexibility. Anybody who can see themselves having all these skills, having 5 of these skills? thinking a bit more critically about them, complex problem solving skills. What does that mean? What does it mean to have complex problem solving skills? Anyone? Even just by the, if even if you don't think you have it, but when you think that you want someone with complex problem solving skills, what does that mean? Anyone? Hey guys, anyone? Talk to me. Talk to us. Anyone?
Okay, I think it means that someone who is able to resolve issues that are complex. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Okay. Complex. Yeah. Goes through complex problem solving skills. And has someone else?
Okay. Oh, complex problem solving. I think it's somebody who has who practice active listening skill. For you to have this sort of skill as a HR or as a leader, you need to be able to have a listening skill, and then also creativity. Your communication should be very clear, and then decision making factors in complex problem solving, because you're trying to solve the problem. So it means there is at some point you need to make a decision. And so it's required to have a critical skill in decision making. And then also maybe team building, because if you're solving a complex problem, you're dealing with a team. I think that your goal is to build that team, try and help the team solve a problem, and again, build them. And so what can they learn out of what you're solving?
Yeah.
That's pretty, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So complex, looking at all the other skills that you need to come and look at the problem in itself and be able to solve that. Someone else? Complex problem solving skills.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, now I'm thinking about HR being as a HRBP or a HR business, being HR being a business partner.
Yeah.
Normally, you'll find that as in HR, you are expected to link up with almost all the, all the areas in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, like somebody has said that sometimes HR, that the HR normally links up to everybody. So somebody says the organization is as weak as it's as strong as the weakest link.
Yes, it's
The
true.
all organizations to all parts of the organization. You're supposed to understand whatever is going on in every part of that organization, so that you link them up and develop the strength that the organization needs from where you are, because you're trying to link everybody, strengthen everybody. There's a tendency for maybe every department to look at its own area and see, what will I do? But as HR, you're supposed to link up all of them. So that complex problem solving, I think it's necessary for you just to see how do you make the organization as strong as it can possibly be.
Anybody else? I agree. So the complexity of the matter, the complexity of the organization is as important as anything else. And the thing is that when we say complex, we also want to make sure that we drive it towards simplicity. So complex problem, it can be technical, but it also could be soft skill. So we have a problem with our technical, this product, we are not able to resolve it, and we always have batches being brought back. How do we make sure that we resolve that? Complex problems within the technical realm of the organization. Then we have all these soft things around, you know, people not being able to work together, egos coming to play and stuff like that. So complex problems, and how do we make sure that we simplify them? We break it down in the smallest minutes of ways for us to be able to say it is complex, but this is how we are going to solve it. We will start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are going to end up being there. So it's a way of thinking of it could be complex, but I am going to break it down. Even think of when you have the biggest of problems as an individual. Me as Catherine, I have this big problem. You know, I don't know what to do right now, but I need to breathe in, breathe out, and say, write the problem. You get what I mean? And I'm sure that is all what we do, and break it down. Can I solve it? Perhaps. Can I get someone to help me? Perhaps even better. How long will it take for me to do that? It will take me maybe a week or a month or a year or 5 years for me to be able to do that. So the ability to look at it and break it down into facets that can work is extremely important. So all these whatever, all these 10 top skills, are they things that you think that your teams are bringing into the organization? And I think it is important for us to start thinking as decision makers, as hiring managers, as people who bring people through the door. Do they have all these skills? If we don't have these skills internally, how are we building capacity even of ourselves? You know, can people rely on me to make good decisions when things are complex, when things are difficult, and for me to be able to do that? How do I coordinate with others? How do I show up? People management, you know, people, whether they are leaders or whether they are functional heads, how are they being able to do that? And service orientation, how savvy are we in terms of bringing in service back to the people that need to be done? So let's dive in, because we know that when the World Economic Forum says these are the skills, we listen to those skills, because the body is an authority in terms of giving us what is needed. And then they just don't throw these things our way. They make sure that they have a research and a science behind it in terms of what it is. So if emotional intelligence is one of the top key job skills that we'll need, begs the question, and why we are here, all of us, why we are all here, is to dig deep in terms of the issue of emotional intelligence. So anyone who can define for us what emotional intelligence is? Anyone? Olali? Any just thoughts around emotional intelligence? And I know we all know, maybe it's just now making sure that we can pack it together in a way that if it was an exam and say, define emotional intelligence, how would you define it? Anyone?
Okay, may I try?
Yes, please.
Emotional intelligence could be the capability of an individual to recognize their own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're self-aware of your own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, you're able to also recognize those of others and discern them. First of all, you
Exactly.
have to know your own.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
Yes.
Knowing your own emotions and getting to know the emotions of the other person, and being able to discern them, you know, becoming more self-aware. And we will get into that in terms of who am I? Self-awareness, how does it come from? What informs self-awareness and stuff like that? Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? We are 26 of us here now. Please let's share. In fact, 28 right now. Welcome everybody else who we had already started and you found us on our way. Interesting topic. Anyone? Emotional intelligence? Anyone? Anyone around emotional intelligence? I'm sure we all know one or two things around it.
Mm,
Yeah.
according to my understanding,
Yeah. What's your name, please?
My name is Beth Omondi.
Okay, Beth. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. Okay, according to my understanding, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand yourself and okay, understanding yourself and being able to manage the emotions of those people who are around you.
Being able to manage yourself and managing the people around you. Great. Yeah. And we hear all sorts of there's emotional intelligence, there's intelligence quotient, then I hear now there's social intelligence, there's network intelligence, there are all sorts of whatever. Anyone who has had more apart from emotional intelligence, other intelligence? Intelligence? I'm sure we all know them. So emotional intelligence, or EI, you will see us using that interchangeably a lot in this workshop. EQ or EI is a term that was created by two researchers, Peter and John, and popularized by Daniel Goleman. You remember, everybody should have his book. If you don't have his book, hey, I suggest that after this training, when you get by with your errands up and down, you get close to a bookshop, please buy his book, The Emotional Intelligence. It's a real good guiding factor in terms of emotional intelligence, very, very deep and very, very well articulated. We define EI as the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions. Recognize, what does recognize mean? Understand, what does it mean? And manage, I recognize that I am getting fearful. In this situation, I'm extremely fearful. So I'm recognizing the kind of emotion that is coming my way. I recognize that I am starting to get angry in this situation. So the moment that I recognize, then I understand it. What does fear mean? How is it manifesting? And then how am I going to manage it? If I'm alone, how am I going to manage it? If I'm around other people, if it's one person that we are having this and this emotion is coming my way, how am I really going to manage that emotion? Every kind of emotion, happy emotion, sad emotion, we all have types of emotion. Recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others, because we are social beings, so we'll always be interacting with others. In practical terms, this means being aware of that being aware that emotions can drive our behavior and impact people positively or negatively. And this week, I want you to think, this who has impacted me this week, positively or negatively? Working from home, what does it mean? Is your boss always asking where you are and calling you unnecessary just to find out whether you're working? And how does that influence you? Is it positively or negatively? Do you feel that you're being micromanaged, or do you feel that it's someone who is just out to get whatever? So even if I don't answer an email in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, they're calling me and asking me, I've sent that email. And maybe you're on another call with another colleague and you're trying to solve a complex problem. And learning how to manage those emotions, both our own and others, especially when we are under pressure. What kind of pressure are we on right now? The pressure for survival, isn't it? Our job safe? Is business going to still stay afloat? Are my children able to go to school? Are my parents safe? The pressure right now is real. And what kind of pressure? I mean, when I think about organizations, is that it is such a dicey time right now where people are losing their jobs. What kind of pressure? And when you imminent a job loss, and then you come home and you're thinking, now where do I start searching? Especially in this time of the pandemic, because the jobs are few and far between. Of course, there's still companies which are hiring, but those are few and far between. So the pressure during this time is real. What kind of pressure is out there? The pressure also of saying, how do we social distance right now? How do we make the places ready back for work? And all those kind of pressure. So any kind of pressure around this time, what kind of pressure do we feel? Is it real or is it just perceived? Anyone? Let's share. And what are we doing about that pressure? I'll call out names. Mary, Katie, Yvonne, Lucy, Scholar, Ladoni. Anyone? Pressure, Maureen, Nancy, Stanley, Faith, Betty. Anyone? Martha, Jacqueline. Anyone? Kind of pressure that we have right under? I'm under a lot of pressure. I need help, you know, in terms of dealing with this kind of pressure. Or you've let other people think through of how to solve the pressure. No pressure, nothing.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, yes, Faith.
Okay, I think we have at the moment as HR, we have the pressure of retrenching, and at the same time looking at the legal perspective, so that you don't find yourself in quagmire where you have retrenched people and yet the economy will survive maybe after a few months.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
The pressure of retrenching. Do we retrench? Do we send people on unpaid leave and stuff like that? And the pressure is also, I feel you and I hear you, Faith, in terms of the emotions around communicating that, and also the pressure of making sure that it's done correctly. You know, so how do you balance that? And if we were all magicians, and so by July everything will be back to normal, we'll have found a vaccine, and we will all strive to catch up with the 5 months that we have lost right now and go back. Yeah, so I hear you. Yeah, someone else? Anyone else? Kind of pressure that we are under as HR? Anyone? From the business or even as from management, kind of pressure that we are under? Anyone? No, no pressure. We all
Maybe I
okay?
can attempt the second one.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Currently, we are facing the pressure whether to test staff or not, in terms of testing them on COVID. So sometimes you might find that you need to test them for just that feeling that you have tested someone,
Yeah,
but some will decline, others will agree.
yeah.
Okay, I think so. You are torn between now the management wanting you to test people, and there are those ones who don't want to be tested, and there are people who are in prone areas. You feel like you really need to test them, and you don't want to look like you're discriminating.
Exactly. So how are we balancing that? You know, working on people's emotions. Already it's such a grave situation. Whether if I test for COVID, so what happens as an individual? The isolation factor, the expense factor, the stigmatization, which I don't even think that should ever be there in terms of that, the expense that comes with the business. So and that is something that every HR is grappling now with, you know, that we want to test people. Up to what extent can we test? What's the law around testing? And what does that mean for us? If they refuse to be tested, what do we do? If they agree to be tested and they come out positive, what does that mean? You know, so it is really, it's real. Anybody who has come up with a formula who can share with us? Testing, I don't want to be tested, yes I can test, and stuff like that. Anyone? Anyone? Right. Testing or not to test, the pressure around management saying everybody can be tested. People invoke the constitution, it's my constitutional right, and then you think I have all these internal processes that need to be followed. Anyone?
Let me attempt.
Yeah.
Not that I have a formula, but I would think probably
dialogue. Dialogue should really be the key word here. Maybe you can talk to them and explain to them the importance of having them tested, so that you are protecting them and you are also protecting others. Because if, for example, we have an employee that is sick, then we need to care for them, and also at the same time we need to isolate them from others, so that we don't have we stop the spread at the workplace. So probably just communicating to them, explaining to them why you are doing it, because probably some of them would think, if I'm found I'm sick, probably I will be fired, those emotions. So we need to work on that part of it, just reassuring them that this is for their protection and also for the protection of the other people at the workplace.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything, you remember, guys, where I said everything boils down to communication. If you are not communicating adequately, honestly, timely, that is when we get all these pressures coming our way, and people start feeling their own things, their own blank spaces, and saying, oh, they want to do this because of this, because of that. And actually just having clear guidelines. And sometimes even when we are coming up with these guidelines, are we involving people to just get their views, to get the best views of how it's going to be done? So constant communication, and we cannot overemphasize the need of communication during this time of COVID. If we are not communicating, we would rather be seen that we are over communicating. Don't we think that Motahi is over communicating?
Sure, he is.
Isn't it? At 4 o'clock, he comes and tells us there are many people. I saw people saying that this is how the script is going to be. Fellow Kenyans, my Kenyans, and oh my gosh. But would you rather not he's communicating and telling us and putting the fear of the Lord in us, that please wear your mask and wear your mask appropriately. Please make sure that you keep social distancing. Please make sure that this is what we have found. Please know that this is what it is. Would rather hear it than not hearing it, especially during this time. And that's what we also, as HR, need to let the CEO or the MD or the C-suite know, that you need to communicate every week. You'd rather come and say, how was your week last week? This is where we are. We have not moved, but these are the efforts that we are doing, for people just to know that we're in this boat together. Otherwise, you will not be able to hold whatever. And when people burst and flare out, it is really going to be, it is really not going to be good. I would just like to pause and say, look at all the protests that went on in America. Is it 2 weeks ago? It snowballed to other African countries, and because of lack of communication for many years, when you think whether it was warranted or whether it was not warranted, for around the area of discrimination was life, very, very life, and I we work with one of the suppliers who was who has a very difficult right time now in the organization, because people have said that they are discriminating. And then we came and said, if that kind of a supplier, would it impact our brand if people know that we buy products from them? So look at even the complex solving problems, around us, thinking as an organization, this company that is one of our main suppliers has been caught up in that area of discrimination that is going on in the United States. Employees have come and said that there's discrimination. So around this, what kind of negotiations are we going to have with them? Is it our business anyway? Or we were just being mother hen and saying we are poking ourselves in our big whatever? But what does it mean for the people who use our products? Are they going to know that? Are they going to look at us and say, you are the same people who are also in this boat together? So it is really complex during this time of COVID. And let's allow ourselves to learn in terms of what's happening around the globe, even if it does not really touch on us. If it touched on us, what is the worst case scenario? So even as HRs, let's look at it from a broader perspective, because it's about communication and it's about us being able to integrate in the society with people's communication and timely communication. So these are just various aspects. Emotional intelligence is concerned with understanding oneself and others, relating with to people, and adapting to and coping with the immediate surroundings, and address the emotional, personal, and social and survival dimensions of intelligence. The emotional, personal, social, and survival. And right now we are talking about survival much more compared to maybe 2 years ago. We could figure out how to survive. If I lost a job, if my business went bust, if this happened, I would be able to move back. But now the survival space is so thin. Everyone wanting us, 6 billion of us in the world, or are we 7 billion now? How many billions we are? The survival space is so small. All of us are trying to fit in there. So how do we bring in our emotional intelligence with coping with the immediate surrounding of where it is right now? The ability to recognize the meanings of emotions and their relationships and the reason and the problem solving on the basis of them. So goes on to say that it is not just about being aware of who I am, the situation that I am in, but the relationships of those emotions and the reasons that they manifest themselves, and to problem solve on the basis of them. Have you ever met someone and you didn't just like them? Sema ukweli. Have you ever just met someone and you didn't like them on the first day? What is that?
Yes.
They keep us. Why? What happened, Yvonne? You just didn't like them.
Yeah, just okay. I think you can just look at. It depends. You can see someone and you don't. You just feel like you don't like, or you wouldn't want to associate with them. Just like
Siku,
that. Or maybe it's
Sikumpenda
how
tu.
somebody maybe looks at you, or
Yeah.
kitu kaa hiyo.
Kitu kama hiyo. Damu hazikupendana.
Yes.
Someone else, yeah. So is it always correct that even going further, when you get to know them, you just know, I was totally correct? Or sometimes it corrects, the situation corrects itself.
At times the situation might change after you learn more about the person, or if you stay for a longer period, if you cannot avoid the person.
Okay.
So yeah, things change.
So you try to work around the situation. Okay. So, but sometimes you can meet someone and what happens? What is that? What is that gut feeling that I look at someone and I don't like them? Who am I to judge them at the first instant of the first meet? Anyone else? Yvonne, I agree. Yeah, we can look at someone and we just, the way they're looking at me, the way they're answering back to me. Anyone else? Anyone else? No?
Yeah, I think it's all about perception.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the way you perceive someone and then being judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Being judgmental.
Yeah.
And as people now who know much more in terms of
Yeah.
giving someone a chance, what does that mean? And it's true. I look at you and I just decide, well, I don't like them. Am I? They just they have something that I cannot pinpoint. Is this that something we always say? And we've all been caught in that place of where I cannot pinpoint what it is. Lakini, apana, I can't. And sometimes you go and prove right, and sometimes you just whatever. And that's why I keep on saying, as recruiters, we need to be extremely aware of our emotions when we are recruiting. The chances of us being subjective as human beings and not being present in the real job that has brought us here can make you miss a very good candidate. So even when we go into recruitment with your panel, there are all those biasnesses that you come and say, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. And that is why it is helpful for us to sit down as a committee and say, what are we looking at? And sometimes person will say, but I saw that, oh, I didn't see that. That was an interpretation of it. And as experts in recruitment, then over and above many years, we get to know that the biasness that we hold as ourselves need to be left at the door. And I come in with a blank page of wanting to know who Catherine is, what they can bring to the table, what are their weaknesses, and what are their strengths for me to be able to know whether they are suitable for this role. So there's a lot of things that come into play, even as we interact with a person on the first day, or even if we have interacted with them for 5 years or 10 years, knowing who they are. EI is involved in the capacity to perceive emotions, assimilate emotion-related feelings, understand the information of those emotions, and management. The ability to recognize your own emotions as well as the emotions of others, and how do we make sure that that is done? So, emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time. We agree? We'll not be nice all the time. We have feelings, we have emotions, so I can't be nice. I'm not I'm not the one who is nice, and people cannot be nice all the time. There are some times when something will happen and I have to call it out, and I have to say this is how I feel. But even when I'm saying that, how am I saying it? That is what we need to learn. I'm not nice all the time. But even when I'm saying it, that this thing has to stop, this thing has happened, how am I saying it? How am I relating it? Because people will always remember, unakumbuka akituambia hivyo kwa hiyo meeting vile alikuwa amekasirika, compared to, well, it was a very difficult time and she had to express herself, but the way she expressed herself made me even think, hey, Napo, I had not done the right thing. You get what I mean? So I can't be nice all the time because I have emotions, and sometimes things will not be going right. So I have to call them out and make sure that whatever. Emotional intelligence is not being touchy-feely. What is touchy-feely? What is touchy-feely? Someone? Touchy? What is touchy-feely? We all know. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, please
Maybe
redeem
I
me.
can try.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, thank you.
Being able to openly express your feelings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not about, it's not being about touchy. You are authentic. You are true. You are honest. It's not like, okay, you leave people hanging and they don't know what it is and whatever. Yeah, that's true. Emotional intelligence is not being emotional. What is emotional? Not about being emotional. It's not about being emotional, although we are talking about emotions. But what is emotional? Guys, anyone? I'll pick someone now. Stanley, maybe you can unmute yourself. Emotional intelligence is not about being emotional. What is emotional? Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Catherine. I think we can also say that emotional intelligence is not about just emotions. There is also the science behind it.
It's a way that relates to person's emotion.
So we were with Stanley. Yeah, sorry,
okay.
there's a cross.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So emotional intelligence, well, it's not about being emotional. It's just the matter, the realization of self and how you handle the situation. The realization of who you are, so that you may be, for example, an extrovert. You don't need to hate yourself, or an introvert. You don't need to hate yourself. But how do you understand it, and how do you relate with other people? You may also be very emotional per se, into the understanding of into that you're emotive. You're an emotive guy. You're emotional. Anything that comes, you cry easily. No, but again, there's also strength in crying. Yeah, and it's good for you to know yourself. My thinking, Catherine, that when you know yourself, you're an emotional person. When you're in this situation, then how do you deal with it when you are dealing with self and when you're dealing with others? I think that's yes, that's how I can look at it. It's not about being emotional. Accept yourself who you are. You're an emotional person. When, for example, emotional comes, a good example can be related when people pass on. There are those people who will cry a whole week. There are some people who never have tears. They just look at things. That's who they are. You don't take them that they are terrible people. They don't have feelings. They have their own feelings, but it is manifested differently. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Yeah. One thing is that we can never invalidate anybody's emotions. That because I'm fearful, I don't feel happy about it. You can't say, but this situation will pass, and something like that. So emotional intelligence is not about being emotional, is if it is going to negatively affect the other person. You get what I mean? In terms of, we know that situations will call for us to display our emotions, but those emotions that are going to adversely affect or impact negatively to the situation is what we are saying you must be able to check them. So if you found, if let's say I was so upset, and I'm upset at Yvonne, and we all now know that we start having a shouting match, and everybody is raising their voice, and that is not going to solve anything. And then I even go out of my way and punch Yvonne. So whatever. So the thing is that there's a situation at hand. We both are not agreeing on it. How do we make sure that I have a deep breath, I breathe back, and I become the mature one in this situation and come and say, Yvonne, it is not working. Allow me to voice my concern around this in a way that is not going to aggravate the situation. It's always about by the way, when we start learning about emotions and looking at the situation at hand and not about the person, then we're in a better place to have better communication and a better place to hold our emotions in check and in balance. But the moment I look at Yvonne even right now is looking at me like this. Instead of, what happens is that I start now building up and things that are whatever, because then I have just decided to look at Yvonne and what she's doing to me, how she's manifesting herself to me. She's actually taunting me, and I want to claw her out. Instead of looking at the situation and let's say, Yvonne, you should have met this deadline. You didn't meet this deadline yesterday. Honestly, I should have taken it up from yesterday. You are still telling me you have 2 more days to finish. And then also Stanley is waiting for this job on Wednesday. I still have to do my bit and you've not done it. Let's talk about the issue that is at hand of Yvonne not being able to complete this task. What is happening, Yvonne? Yvonne might have to come and say, I didn't get enough material to research on it. I am struggling. I don't know how to put it in this format and stuff like that. So we are looking at the whatever. But Yvonne, you are always lazy. You never meet deadlines. You are sloppy. Now, all these kind of things. You see those kind of emotions, So in that emotion, she's coming out and saying, I am so lost in this report that I don't know what to do. And maybe looking at it, then I ask Yvonne, so Yvonne, why didn't you come to us earlier and say you are struggling with it? And Yvonne will come and say, now that I know, I wish I had done that. So those two situations are very different compared me to coming and clawing out each other, because then the snowball effect is that tomorrow will we have a good relationship with Yvonne? No, we'll always think of how we boxed each other And knowing that Yvonne, I will always have the perception that Yvonne is always lazy, will never meet deadlines, I don't want to work with her. And that's what happens in organizations. We tend to concentrate on the person instead of the task that is there. Of course, also the person is important, because how can we improve them? It might be a weakness that they've never even been told. But when I aggravate the situation, is now where everything falls and goes out of place. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So why is EI so important? Why is emotional intelligence so important? Research shows that IQ can help you to be successful to the extent of only 20% of your life. What is IQ? Intelligent quotient. The rest of the 80% success depends on your EQ. I hear it all the time. It is better to be street smart than, I don't know whether that's a good saying. I hear it all the time. The other day I was thinking, when I was thinking about this training, I kept thinking, why do people say that it's better to be street smart than book smart? Why? Someone? Street smart than book smart? Anybody? And then the research comes and says that EQ, EI is it's the rest 80% compared to book smart 10%, 20%. Where is that? Where do we find that? Someone?
I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're street smart, you'll be able to okay, you'll think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like suppose you don't have a job, like you're not employed by someone, you'll be able to come out with a project or your own business, or just try to find something that can bring in something. But when you're book smart, you'll just your mind will be fixed on like whatever you the whatever you had from school will be the one that will help you succeed in life. So I think people who are street smart, even if they are not much learned, they can be able to come up with something that can make them be better people.
Ability to be agile, creative, you know. So the rest of the whatever. They say that the average people rule the world, isn't it? Is it something like that? That the average people rule the world and the book smart people are they are the ones who are ruled by something like that. So it's interesting in terms of where we are, what emotional intelligence. And it also says that 90% of high performance have high IQ. Do you agree with that at your place of work? Do you see people with really high IQ being better performers because of their ability to relate with other people? Anyone? We see that a lot. And that's why we keep on saying, I'd rather hire for attitude, 90% attitude, 10% skill. I love that poster in my office, because then I know that when you have the right attitude, our ability to communicate and to be able to reach consensus and to be able to interrogate the matter is much better, because then you come with the right attitude and you have a high IQ. Okay. Emotional intelligence, EI is responsible for 58% of your job performance, which is 8% more of the technical skill that is required. But when you have emotional intelligence and you're aware of who you are, then the ability for you to be able to be successful will be much more, and how you do your job and the performance that you bring to the job, because you're always thinking, oh, well, I didn't do too well there. I didn't have a good call. I didn't have a good conversation with my colleague. I didn't have a good conversation with the client. How can I be able to do it much better? So it's more heightened in terms of what should be doing. So let's go to the IQ. We all know IQ, isn't it? IQ are all those exams that we like subjecting. We like subjecting. Who does aptitude tests at their place of work for hire? Anyone? Anyone? IQ. You've invested in all those systems and interview programs. Anyone? And why do you have them at your place of work? The personality test, the aptitude tests. Why do you have that? Anyone, please? Or even have you had to do one? And what was your experience around doing an aptitude test? How did you feel? Did you get the job? Katie, Stella, Mary, Dorcas, just speaking as I scroll through my attendance list. Gadoni, anyone who has had to do an aptitude test lately or just maybe a time ago, or whether we administer them? Winnie, anyone? Shem? No one? Come on, guys. I'm sure someone has done it. Anyone? Anyone? Or even going to university, SAT, TOEFL, all those, your children, your friends. Nobody? Am I speaking to myself only? No one? Anyone? No? Okay. If there are many anyway on the internet. You can always browse them, pick them up, practice on them and stuff like that. So the IQ, intelligent quotient, is a number is the number obtained from standardized intelligence tests, which represents an individual's ability of logical thinking. You know, there are all those. There is maths, there's English, there's comprehension, there is patterns, you know, all those. And sometimes they can be pretty complex, especially because then you have just a standard timeline to do them. You know, you'll be told you'll do 50 questions in 50 minutes or something like that. So the pressure is real. But maybe just given that they just want to see how your mind is wired when you do all these things and maybe work under pressure. While on the other side, EQ refers to an individual's level of emotional intelligence, which represented by a score obtained by a standardized test. So it just shows, who is Catherine? What does she like? What are her strengths? What are inherent weaknesses that we need to understand? You know, it just gives you a balance of who you are. You know, this one is checking on your intelligence, your whatever, your ability to be able to interpret things. And this one is whatever, who am I and how do I appear as an individual, and then when working in teams. And then IQ measures general intelligence. EQ, we know that it by now it measures emotional intelligence. The acquisition of an IQ is your inborn ability. If you cannot draw, the picture of a lion, even if you can try to draw something of a picture of a lion, but you will never. If you cannot do biology, you will never be able to. I mean, it is just if you cannot do maths, to those difficult statistics and whatever, you might have the principles of it, but the intelligence that you are born with is what will inform you even to the types of careers that you might be able to end up in. You get what I mean? There's some people who struggle a lot to learn a language because maybe they are not wired to, and I'm one of those. You know, if you tell me now I have to go and live in France or Greece or Brazil and I have to learn a new language, I will just, really, do I want that opportunity? And I know it's so hard for me to learn, you know, but emotional intelligence, it is learned and improved. And for you to be able, because emotional intelligence is so important in life, then it complements you in your IQ capability. Because then if I need someone to solve a complex maths problem, I will go to that person and I'll be able to tell them with the way I communicate, please help me here. You get what I mean? So even if you try, sometimes it's important you can try, but it reaches a point and say, this is not my cup of tea. My cup of tea is in doing this. I do not like maths. I do not like English. I am going to focus myself on things that I like. I can read music very easily and I'm going to become a musician. You get what I mean? And you complement yourself with other people who can be able to do things a bit more easily, you know. So ability, learn, understand, and implement knowledge, logical reasoning, and abstract thinking. And then in EQ, it says recognize, control, and express one's emotions, perceive and assess of others' emotions. You know how we see others. Ensure success in academics. We all know that your IQ will, whatever. We know all those other people in school who are more clever than us. We also know people who are more worse than us, you know, and you wonder how come you got a D, but this exam was not even hard. And me, how come I scored a B, you know, and stuff like that. I remember when we were in at the university doing when I was doing my MBA, there was this class calculus whatever. Oh my gosh, 90% of us were so drained by it because it was very difficult, and 10% of the people, in fact we used to tell them, give us the marking scheme with your papers. I'm sure you can relate with that, doing difficult things that were so, just thinking, well, how will I do this? How will I become successful? And all what we were looking for is the bare pass of 40%. And that 40% was so difficult to get. When you got it, you were just like, I finished this MBA, I'm ready to go to the next stage, you know. But emotional intelligence makes sure that you're successful in life. So you hear what I said is that in terms of these 10% who are so good, we used to go to them, even the lecturers, we got friends with them, teach us just the basics of how you do these, because we know that you're already ahead of the time. So how do you capitalize on other people's intelligence for you to be able to do that? You use the emotional intelligence part of you. It recognizes people with high intellect, common sense, mental challenges, and that's why I keep on saying all the big five audit firms at the end of the year, they go to the universities and take the first class students. You know, they poach them, all these multinationals, they take those people. But again, now you've seen what has happened. Like EY has come and said, we don't care more for degrees anymore. We want people who can fit into the system and be able to learn the work. So where does IQ sit at the place of work? Do you still see it having an importance compared to EI, leaders, managers, and people with social challenges? So let's talk about IQ and EQ. Do you think that EQ will continue having a great place at the workplace, or it will be slowly be replaced by EQ, or has that already happened at your place of work? Or even when you look at, you know, do you want really smart people? Do you want A's? Do you want your whole organization to be filled with A's? Or are you willing to compromise up to D's? Anyone? If you are running your own organization, where you work, if it was your own organization, what kind of balance would you want? What kind of balance?
May I try?
Yes, yeah. Yes, Carol.
I think for me, I would like an average balance, because again, it's not all about A or A stars. When you look at the IQ and EQ, I would like also to have a place of mentorship, you know, where I develop and I mean, it's pride, it takes pride to mentor someone and see them perform and be able to do the task you've given them. So for me, I think all through my life, I've been mentored, and that's where I am today. And so the same, I was not an A star, you know, neither was I a B star, you know. So, but somebody has seen it fit for me to be mentored. And so for me, I have a place for mentorship and being able to raise even a D person to become. Yeah.
Something great, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Carol, in terms of just bringing in the aspect of mentoring, coaching, to make sure that people move in the right direction. Not all of us can become A's, not all of us are A students, and not all of us are D students. So that kind of, how do we create that hybrid to be able to have a balanced organization? Someone else? Do we want to have all A's or all B's in the organization? Anyone?
Okay, personally,
Yeah.
suppose I have my own organization.
Mm.
I wouldn't mind the grades, but um, whether someone has an A or someone has a D, yeah, uh, I wouldn't mind having them as long as according to how okay, I interact with them, and once I give them the chance, according to how they, you know, the way someone works, yeah, the way someone works, and how someone, I don't know how to put it.
The
Okay,
right attitude.
yeah, the attitude of the person, yeah.
Yeah.
If a person has the right attitude towards work, and if I'm seeing the potential of this employee taking my organization to another level, yeah, like he or she is thinking ahead on how we can progress as an organization, I wouldn't mind having him or her,
Exactly. Yeah.
despite of the grade.
Yeah, true. Besides the grade, the kind of person, you remember attitude? Attitude also gives you a broader aspect of this thing is difficult. It's complex. How do I learn? I'm willing to learn. I'm going to go the extra mile. I'll take the extra initiative. Those are the kind of people that we want in organizations. So I believe that each of the two comparisons have a strong place at the workplace. How we balance those teams is extremely important. It also depends on the industry, the leadership that we want in the organization, and how much risk we are willing to take to be ahead of competition. So there's a lot of things that go around, you know, even when you're trying to balance your teams. You look at this person who's coming into the organization, you say, oh, we are kind of introverted, all of us. Can we get someone who's maybe this person appears to be extroverted, has done very well at the interview? Can we bring them in? So it's important for us to keep balancing the teams so that we come out stronger, and for us to be able to appreciate the diversity that teamwork can bring into an organization. So that's the same thing. That's the same, this just in more informed, whatever, um, more informed, elaborated as to what it was said before. When a person tends to ignore the emotions for a long time, it may lead to unhappiness, depression, physical deterioration of health, and in extreme cases, even death, isn't it? Emotional intelligence plays a key role in dealing with our emotions. Why are we having such a depressed society right now? It's because we're not able to deal with our emotions. We are not given an opportunity to be able to express ourselves. So we become so closed up. All this depression states comes in, and all of a sudden we think, oh my gosh, we've got so many cases of depressed people in the society. What is happening here? It's because also people are not being able to express their emotions. What's the one? Why don't people want to express their emotions, especially at the workplace? At the workplace, we are 27 of us. I want 27 reasons.
I think the first one would be fear of being labeled wrongly. Yeah.
Fear of being labeled wrongly. Yeah, true. Someone else? Were people so...
Hello, this is
Yes.
Scholar.
Yeah, hi, Scholar.
I have seen certain people, especially at leadership level, who think that addressing their emotions will make them look weak.
Yeah, they think
Yeah.
that they will be perceived as weak if they show their emotions, so they come out muscle and they are suffering inside. They want to say something on the contrary, but they are not, and they are not being even saying, oh, I don't want to ask, I'll be seen as if I do not know. So they they just wallow in their problems and in their situation. And if they had just voiced and said, this is what I'm struggling with, someone please help me. Very true, scholar.
And some of them is because of the background, how we grew up. Probably some of us grew up in those olden times where we would be beaten, and when you cry, you're beaten more. So what is the future of that child?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You're not
The
supposed
background
to
and the
express it.
circumstances. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's true. I think Stella and you, maybe we are from the same era of generation where beating and beating was the order of the day, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was really real. You cry, you're beaten more, anything small, and then the other neighbor beats you, you know. Oh my gosh, yeah, it was good finally to grow up. Yeah, I can attest to that. Yeah. Someone else? Dorcas, Mary, Chuchu, Betty, anyone who has not spoken? Were people fearful of expressing their emotions at the workplace?
I think
Yeah,
it
people
all
also fear stereotyping.
We fear?
Stereotyping.
Oh yeah, we fear being stereotyped.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. So we fear stereotype. This is, well, yeah, women are like this, men are like this, isn't it? So we've
Yeah,
already been
exactly.
stereotyped and whatever, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah, this department does things like this. After all, they are like that. Yeah. So, and we even say it's so sarcastically and with a lot of hypocrisy and stuff like that. I agree.
Yes. Yes.
Someone else? Thank you for that. Please mute your mic if you're not talking. Thank you. Anybody else? Why we fear?
Let me try. If, for example, at workplace you are in a leadership role, sometimes you do not want to easily display your feelings because people are looking up to you. So in some cases, you find that you have to be strong for the team, even when you feel you are emotionally down. So you kind of like hold it inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the team, yes.
Exactly. So you want to be strong for the team, isn't it? And this time I keep on saying, every time I run a training nowadays, my first challenge, especially to HRs, who's strong for you? Who's being there for you? Whom are you bouncing things to? You know, it is so difficult right now for HR practitioners. Finally, people see that we work, we contribute to the business. You get what I mean? Not that they never saw that, but now it is much more real and alive to the fact that you're pushing longer hours. People are coming to you for solutions. Sometimes you don't even know that. So whom are you talking to? The 27 of us, when it's so stressful right now. When's the last time you even checked in into someone that you trust and say, Enyewe, let me just have a small conversation with you. Even let me just vent in a way that it will help you relieve the pressure. Do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Do you have a friend that you can confide with? Do you have, is your supervisor, this MD or the CEO or whoever you report to, someone that you can go and say, hey, it is really tight right now. The kind of pressure I feel is starting to get into me. Does your medical scheme allow you just to check into the services of a counselor and just sit there and just say, hey, I just want to talk. I just want to talk and relieve it. I just want someone else to hear it and to tell me I'm on the right path. It might not be a problem that you're having, you know, but you just want someone else to sound back and say, you're on the right path. You know, the pressure is real and maybe this is how you can deal with the pressure. So don't shy away. Don't get into to swear that you block your emotions when you ignore them, leading to unhappiness, and then you're not able to serve. If you stay for too long, then you become depressed. You know, your physical health take a toll. You still need yourself. You don't have any other person to replace yourself with. You don't have like another Catherine. I've packed Catherine in a box. If this Catherine breaks down, I'll just take another Catherine and put them on top and be able to move on. So it's important for us as HR practitioners or anybody else, whatever profession you are in this webinar, that we come out strongly and say, I'll watch out for myself as much as possible. Okay, so that is important. So a person with a high level of emotional intelligence has a natural gift of handling, expressing, and dealing with their own emotions. It has been found that people with high level of EQ are healthier, do we agree? Happier, and enjoy better relations with others apart from being successful in their careers. Let's say whatever, people who you just want to be, they are clever, they are witty, they have nothing to hold back. When you meet such a person, it's such a joy and you want to be around them. Are you that kind of a person? That's what I would challenge you back, in terms of, are you that kind of a person who people think that you generate and you radiate the kind of emotions that, even if what Sandy said is that even if it's bad, you say it is like this, but also at the same time you say it with diplomacy and with decorum. Your demeanor does not want to offend the other person, but you are out to make sure that the other person is learning and learning well for them to see. And yeah, well, that was not right. I need to be at a better place. And we all know that as we mature, we become better people. Think of your time of a younger manager of 23, 25 years, if you had an opportunity, that it was really not whatever. But even as we grow and we become self-aware of who we are, and it takes effort, you become a much better person. I have seen that as myself, got an opportunity like what I would like to share, maybe my leadership journey. I became a manager at the age of 25. So all of a sudden, one day I was promoted to be head of department. The following year, head of East Africa. The whatever the other year, I became an expert. It can really get to you, young, whatever. But let me tell you, I had such strong mentors who say, check your head. Check your head so hard that for you to be successful, it cannot go into your head. You remember where I said that when people use raw power gets into them. And of course, there are some things that I regret doing in my younger years, making decisions for the business and for the people which were not really as appropriate as I would make right now, because then I didn't also have a lot of experience. But looking back, it was really a good journey. As young as I was, I think it was a great privilege. But I am happy that people were ready to hold me and tell me, you need to check yourself. You need to be much more self-aware. And the organizations I worked for were happy to offer those kind of programs to be able to know you have the capability, but on the other side, who are you as an individual? Have you learned who you are? So this is a topic that is very dear to me in terms of emotional intelligence. How do managers present themselves? People who lead others. I mean, because we all lead people, whether it's at the home front, whether it's kind of programs you're plugged in, at church, mosque, at wherever you are, wherever you serve, at the place of work, you have people that look up to you, that you need to draw back to them. Okay. So, and I'm sure many of us can attest to the fact that we become better and better as we go along. We don't have to be so aggressive and whatever. I would like us even just to very quickly, before we get into the steps of who we are as an individual, to the categories of people that we find at our place of work. Let me just, do you relate with all these people? Do you plug into any of them? People in the organizations. Who annoys you the most? We have hostile, aggressive people. We have complainers, perennial complainers. We have unresponsive people who will never will never respond to anything. We have super agreeable people. Those people should learn how to not to be agreeing all the time. We have negative people and we have indecisive people. I wish I had done a poll. Which of these people annoy you the most? Is it all, or is which of these? Anyone? And maybe just unmute yourself and say, what's your understanding about a hostile, aggressive person, who's a complainer, unresponsive person, super agreeable people, and how do they make you feel? And are you one of them? You could be one of them. Anyone? Because we never see ourselves in this, because we never really ask for genuine, honest feedback sometimes. Anyone? I'll pick someone. Hostile, we have this kind of people in organizations, or you don't have them in your organizations, or even in the society, you don't know them. Politicians fall under which group? Politicians fall under which group?
The first one.
Hostile, aggressive people. Okay. Yeah, hostile, aggressive people. Yeah, they, after they win our votes, they go and they are always telling us it's our fault. We have not done this. We have not done that. It's politicians. We'll still go to heaven. God is faithful. Yeah. Someone else?
Okay, maybe I can try.
Mm-hmm.
Undecisive people.
Yeah.
Okay, especially if they're in management
Yeah.
and you want a decision to be made, and
Yeah.
they never give any response. They're just
Mm-hmm.
there. They're not
Yeah.
helping you to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very okay. They actually don't. They make you not to lag behind because you are not
Yeah.
able to move, especially if you are reporting to them and they're supposed to make a decision. So they are very irritating.
Indecisive people. They are very irritating. They are very annoying, isn't it?
Yes.
I I worked with a very indecisive person in one of the companies that I work with. He would never make a decision for the department. He was heading another department, and his department was crucial. It played a crucial role in the organization, like every other department. But there's some critical positions more than others. If someone left, then it whatever. And we struggled with it. And one day my head fried. Sorry, and really frying it fried, because then I had tried to, as a peer, hey, buddy, you need to make a decision on this. Can I help you? Can we help you make a decision? It's not even me. And sometimes I would go for lunch and say, this decision is still pending. Oh, I haven't made it, and whatever. And one day in the senior management team, because it was a decision that was being waited for, and I said, have you consulted other your department members? What are they saying about it? And I said, you never make a decision, and that will be your downfall in this organization. Maybe I should not have have said that last statement. I always remember it, and it was true, but maybe the way I said it, it wasn't anything. But I was so tired of him not maybe, and everybody in the team that he led were also tired of him. So I gave him feedback, but maybe the way and whatever, and everybody said, yeah, you don't make decisions very well. You always doing that. So it is annoying. I had reached, and unfortunately, yes, I had reached, maybe it was whatever. He just found me at a time when it was not good, but I didn't check my emotions. But I knew it was the truth, but how I packed the truth maybe was not very kind. You get what I mean? So you learn out of it. Someone else? And I'm sure we
Okay.
can all give examples around it.
Okay, sometimes for me, I get so upset with negative people. They tend to whine a lot and, become victims of everything, whether, everything that the environment has, they become victims, such that even when at times you're giving feedback, they poses as victims. So they are always, always negative. So yes.
Exactly, yeah. They see nothing. They're pessimists. The glass is always half empty, it's never half full. They can't make lemonade out of lemons, all those things. So they're just stuck in their world, and they never see the good out of it. And I'm not saying that we will not from time to time interlink ourselves as human beings, honestly. Let's call it out of what it is. Sometimes because of maybe the circumstances we find ourselves, I'll be a hostile person, I'll be a complainer, I'll be unresponsive, I'll agree just to get out of the way, I'll be negative, but this is not where we want to be. And maybe just because we are human beings, we have emotions, this is not our primary inherent characteristic. You get what I mean? But there are some people who will always complainers, always, even if we try as much as possible. Let's run a poll and see whether people would like to either come to work, or people want to work at home, or people would have a blend of both, or a hybrid, or whatever you guys call it. And the first person who is always a whiner will come and say, after all, management, why would we take that poll? Isn't it what they will say? After all, management has already made a decision. They are wasting our time. Why are we making the poll? I'm sure they will all tell us to go back to work. And then all these guidelines they have put in place, they will not even adhere to them. They will just let us get COVID. They will. Can you hear that? Isn't it? Is it? I can see all of you. We know, and influence others and whatever. After all, sasa sijui anatuambia tufanye nini? Complaining. The stationery is late, even the lady of the stationery has not opened the whatever, and they're always complaining. How can we really be able to work with these people in the organization? Someone else? Are we a country of complainers, Kenyans? Are we? You think we are? Anyone?
Yes.
To a certain extent, sometimes we complain a lot. Yeah. We complain about everything.
Everything.
But
All.
what has led us to complain? It's sometimes because the government has put us in such difficult circumstances. Can you imagine as late as when they read the budget and I had this discussion from our Kenya colleagues. So they told me, Catherine, reduce my pension immediately, contribution to the bare minimum. The moment the budget was read, you remember they said that they're going to be taxing pension money after 65 years. And these are millennials of 27 years. That is, I said, you still got a long way to go. Please keep saving. They said, no, Catherine. This is not the government we want to work for. It's already cheating on us and whatever. I would rather take my money somewhere else. And in fact, they came and said, even if you want to see where we are going to take the money, I can show you exactly that I'll not be eating the money. You get what I mean? So sometimes the government just does things that will make us feel that they're not working for us in the best interest, and we will tend to complain. So anybody else? An example of any of these people in the organization, and how does it make you feel? Because we're also trying to make sure that under this category of people, they make our emotions show up in a way that even we can ask ourselves, was that me? You've seen someone killing someone and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that they would kill, isn't it? And a flip of a situation, something can become very dire. Someone else? The people that you don't like working with a lot at all? Anyone? Please? Okay, I'm sure. So the hostile people in this category have a general feeling of hostility towards other people and openly voice their opinion in an aggressive manner. One of the things that we should try to get the people from who are aggressive is to get them to know that aggression is not good, but assertiveness is fine, isn't it? We want people who are assertive, because assertiveness is just firmness of the facts on the table. You get what I mean? This table is brown in color. You're saying it is blue. It is brown because we can all say it is brown. So just to make sure that they should move from being aggressive to being assertive, because people do not want whatever. The best way to deal with these people is to give them space and time to voice and express their opinions openly and clearly, and then you come and interject after they have said. After that, you let them vent out their opinions, and you can move into solving the problem by asking their cooperation and keeping them in the loop. The complainers, the people in this category, are those who are relentless, chronic complainers. complaining about everything, the traffic, the weather, as if I am God to know whether the weather is going to be all sunny the whole day or whether it's going to be rainy the whole day. Enjoy, even if it's a dull day. Make some coffee and be happy about it. The best way to deal with people in this category is to acknowledge their complaint and paraphrasing it. So you're saying that the weather is dull. Indeed, the weather is dull. What can we do about it? You know, lay up with some warm clothes, you know, have a coffee that will brighten you up and stuff like that. Complaining that Catherine did not finish the project. She never finished the projects on time. Is there a time that Catherine really finished the project on time? How did it make you feel? Also, you should make such people get out of their complaining mode and see the reality. For this person, they should assign fact-finding tasks for such people in your organization. The unresponsive type, the watermelons, sorry, I don't know whether that is true in this country, but sorry. In this category of people tend to be closed and uncooperative. They are introverts. You know they are introverts, isn't it? But introverts will contribute when they are called upon. These people are just uncooperative. You ask them, sijui, tulieka wapi maziwa? Mimi sijui. Na ile report iko wapi? Mimi sijui. Anyway, sijui is their second name, is their middle name. So no matter what you say or do, it would be difficult to get them to cooperate and take an active part in anything. And then one of the things is that, how do we bring all these people in an organization? How do we have all these categories of people in an organization? Don't we ask ourselves, even with thorough recruitment, we saying that we only have one people with the right attitude, but we will still find all these people, because at the interview stage, we cannot know who exactly Catherine is until we start working with them. So what are some of the allowable weaknesses? We keep on saying is that when we get people with these traits, up to what stage are they able to be self-aware of who they are and how they present themselves and how that affects other people? That's what we always want to make sure that we do. So these uncooperative people, the best way to deal with people in this category is to have an open, friendly discussion with them and ask open-ended questions to find out their opinions. So, was the milk brought? No. Do you think that the milkman will bring the milk on time? And what do you think about the milkman? You see that kind of conversation, an open-ended question. And then you should be able to get them to open up. Okay. Then who are these, the super what? The super agreeable people. These people in this category, yes, to be yes men. And in the organization, we call them the bootlickers, because they want to be the pets for the bosses and the favorites. They tend to agree to everything you say and all your opinions and ideas. These people are not good for you because they never say anything, but at the back of their mind, they will just be like, well, I really don't care much. Let the people, they actually could be a type, they could be a type of lazy and hiding behind their inefficiencies. So the best way to deal with this category is to actually get to know their, to get to know them better and work on trying to find out the real reasons that prevent them from taking the action. Is it because you're fearful of failure? Is it because you do not know? Why do you always agree with me? Me, someone who always agrees with me, I want someone we can have a healthy conversation. I know, I don't think if we do it like this, the way you are saying it is not correct. And that's why it is important to have a coaching culture in your organization. Let me just explain to you. A coaching culture just means that you give people the opportunity to solve their own problems and come up with their own solutions. It's as simple as that. You've come to me, and people, you will just see a difference in the organization where people come and say, Allah, the boss never gives me answers. Lakini you boss maybe ni lazy at nipatiangi answers. But on the flip side, when you think about it, the boss gives me an opportunity to look for my own solutions. And I go back and we discuss, and they say, own it and run with it. When you have if you're owning things and running with them, you have a better opportunity to succeed and have an organization that is more creative and is more innovative. Negative people, we have said, the best way is to help them overcome their negativity and fear by presenting them with actual facts and answer their problems to their objective questions. Indecisive people, the manager that I called out, I'm so sorry. I apologize to him after that. Trust me, I did. I went back and say maybe it wasn't the best way I said it, but it was the truth. And if it made you feel bad, then I'm sorry about it. And we buried, we kissed and made up. The people in this category tend to be indecisive and lack the power to make decisions of their own. Such people are not sure of their own capabilities and lack self-confidence, self-esteem. The best way to deal with people of this category is to listen carefully and patiently, which we do not have, about any cues they give in their conversation as to the reason. So listen to them a little bit more. Don't jump into their conversations, and you will find out that they are whatever. So what are some, when we have high levels of intelligence, what does it do? And we can all agree to this, isn't it? I just want to quickly go through that. When we all agree, benefits of emotional intelligence to individuals and to the organization, increase optimism, effective leadership skills, better change management, increase self-awareness, effective participative management, better health, like what we have said, effective conflict resolution. We also, we don't like conflicts and we don't want to deal with conflicts. But conflicts will be there every day. But how do we deal with them? You remember in the beginning where we said, how do we deal with conflicts? It's all about communication, making people comfortable and putting them at ease. When you think about that manager, even if I go to them, they're always so easy. They will stop what they're doing and they'll be able to accommodate me. Or even when people think, well, when I go to the HR office, they will always listen to me. But it's not like, don't we? Did you hear what I said? Where you say, well, let's gauge their mood of how it was. You want people to know that every day you present yourself the same way. Even if it's not a good day, you'll be able to excuse yourself and say, unfortunately, this is not a good time for us to have this discussion. Please come back later. Proper balance between personal life and work, which we're trying to look for right now. Increased likelihood of promotion because you can be relied on someone else. Anybody else who would like to say anything? The benefits of emotional intelligence at the workplace. And of course, all this leads to increased profitability, a better brand preposition for you as an organization. People can be relied on, and yeah, were we not also happy about us winning the non-permanent, the temporary seat at the security agency of the UN, which is a real one. It's the strongest. It's the strongest unit in the UN. I think it's good for Kenya. And the permanent secretary kept saying that we're in safe hands. We're safe hands. We lobbied a lot and whatever. It's just about being able to be mature and be able to resolve our conflicts as an organization. Even if we have all these things internally, it's sometimes not working. But I think Kenya is looked at as a country where we can be responsible and we can take Africa's problems to the next level, and to that it will be able to resolve a lot. Anybody? So even looking, that's why I said, look at it broadly. What does that mean in terms of diplomacy as a country, a multilateral agency for us to be able to be plugging into that space? What if you work in that space, how can you be able to draw the strengths to be able to interrogate the things that you do in your organization? So just don't be so closed up in your organization and the things that you do, but scope a little bit wider in the environment that you work in, and how do you bring those things back into your organization for you to be stronger and to become better. Anybody around the benefits of emotional intelligence as a person, please feel free to share. Don't be, it's not only me who's should be speaking, it's more of us checking on our strengths and our capabilities. Anybody, please? I'll pick anyone, the benefits that you have seen, even with all the kind of people that we have in the organization. no matter how difficult they are, and they could be. Betty, Winnie, I haven't seen you, I haven't heard you guys, your lovely voices this morning. Anyone? Benefits to the organization, have we seen that? Do we have healthy relationships in the organization where everybody feels that they can be able to give back feedback?
Maybe I can just add something.
Yeah.
Okay, using emotional intelligence, the HR department becomes an open door department where people don't fear it, and it doesn't become that monster place that everybody dares treads when they are being called to go.
So what have you done about it?
Yeah. Okay, being open and being actually, okay, maybe the term is here is we treat employees equally so that they don't feel like they are more other staff were favored than the rest. And setting precedents, you ensure that you don't set precedents in your workplace where staff will feel more disadvantaged and others more advantaged.
It's true. Yeah. So having open communications is setting the example, not having precedents, because I keep on saying, once you let the camel into the tent, make a precedent, you're not able to uphold it. You know, you gave Catherine this, you gave her you gave her salary advance, the whatever, and me have come to ask for it, and you are not giving to me. Those kind of discussions around, you know, how do we resolve those kind of conflicts around whatever. So it's just to make sure that what you have said is very true, setting the same precedent for one person to the other. And if that's if it's something that is coming all the time, then it also needs for us to relook and say, do we need to make a policy around this? This is something that everybody is asking. You know, those are so some policies are informed from the fact that everybody is asking for this thing, you know, but our policy says no. Is it time for us to be able to open it up to discussion and see whether it's something that can be brought into the organization? So just because it is no does not mean that it will stop, it will remain no forever, isn't it? So we want progressiveness in the organization. The kind of policies that we have should be extremely progressive, and they're informed by what people are saying around their needs, and their needs come as a result of the kind of emotions that are being manifested in the workplace and in everything that goes with it. Yeah. Okay. Something else? Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? No? Okay. Great. We can move to the next stage, which is pretty interesting as well. Any comments around benefits, kind of people in the organization, how to deal with them? Are you one of them? Do you feel that you can be able to call them out and be able to give them feedback? Anything around that place? Anyone who has had a difficult conversation with a colleague or a peer or a junior in that place, or even CEOs. Let's talk about CEOs. How do CEOs present themselves in the area of emotional intelligence? Are they the best? Or they try too hard to lead and forget themselves, or they want to be so successful they trample over everyone? Anyone? Yeah. CEOs, how do we perceive them, or how would we want to help them in the area of emotional intelligence? Anyone? I won't move until we share something, one or two things around CEOs and how they set the pace in the area of emotional intelligence in the organization. Anyone? Really? Nothing? We all have straight and narrow CEOs who are doing a good job. They don't need help. Or what can we learn from them? Anyone who has a great CEO or a CEO who needs, or even if you are the CEO, what are you doing about it? How do you appear?
Okay, let me share something.
Yeah.
Okay, for like my workplace. Okay,
Yeah.
my GM is really, he's great.
Yeah. Wow,
But
fantastic.
he has a weakness of okay, how he displays his emotion. So for example, let's say like a customer sends a complaint and he's copied into that complaint. Now he doesn't like look at it from, it could be that this complaint was not like necessarily initiated, the issue was not necessarily initiated by the account manager, for example. So he just jumps into it and he'll quarrel the account manager, and he doesn't have any facts like what really happened. By the time the account manager, for example, is explaining, you see maybe there was a delay, a flight delay at the other end where the product was supposed to connect another flight. So there was a delay of delivery. He's already upset everyone in the office. So by the time he's even apologizing, he's already worked everyone up in the office. So you find sometimes it's so difficult because now, like me, I have to come in and call the account manager and say, okay, it's happened. Let us look at the problem, and the problem is we've not satisfied a customer. So he makes sometimes like the HR role very difficult. Yeah. So
Yeah, and it's true, and we can attest to that, looking at and maybe also looping and bringing in the customer and saying, the customer, we are looking into it and stuff like that, instead of us looking, don't air our dirty linen in public. So the whole discussion is now drawn to the person instead of what you have said into the situation at hand, and everybody is so upset. How do we have that discussion? And I'm sure maybe you're working into ways, or you will look into from this webinar, you'll be able to go back and say, how can I help him? What are some of the things? Maybe his self-awareness. How am I able to tell him that your emotions get over you in this whatever? You remember where I say emotional intelligence is not about emotions, it's about you being self-aware of that situation, how you manifest yourself. So by the time he's making noise and he's already worked himself, he's already worked out the other person, worked up the other person, and the relationship can be broken, meaning that. And once that relationship is broken, one of the things that becomes very difficult to build is trust. Trust. How do we build that trust back? How can I come back to you and say, boss, customer A is about to complain, but let me tell you, this complaint will be coming because of what? I don't even have the confidence and even the enthusiasm to come and say, hey, boss, this is coming your way. It's coming our way. How do we solve it together? How do we make sure that we are in as a team? And that's what you always want to make sure that you end up being a team, resolving problems at that level. By the time we go back to the customer, we are talking the same language. We are talking the same language. That's what we want. We are sorry, this did not happen. It's been informed. I've been informed by your account manager. We are resolving it at this level, and take it that the account manager is on top of the game. You get something like that. But if you come and say, well, I am the one solving it now, even the customer thinks that their key account manager is not capable of doing it. Yeah. So thank you about that. Yeah. So thanks. I'm sure you're doing something about it. And maybe out of this webinar, as I said, you'll be able to take back some great lessons for him. Yeah. Or her. Okay. Great. Someone else? Okay. So when all said and done, with our emotions in check, where we do not where we are aware of a situation happening. I know hii red line inakuja, hii hot wire nikikanyanga, people will just think that they've never seen that side of Catherine. But because I'm aware of who I am, even this red light is coming towards me, I'm able to say, hey, let me think through. I've seen it, and this is how I am going to react. But it's sometimes we get hijacked. So I don't know whether you've ever heard of emotional hijacking. And there are 4 stages of emotional hijacking. Anybody? Anybody? Go and say, this is what it is. I've learned a new skill. Emotional hijacking. You'll not hijack me. Anyone? Anyone who can be able to explain what emotional hijacking is? Ever heard of it? Okay, what is hijacking? I'm sure you've all taken insurances now because of kidnapping, hijacking at the business. Your goods or services might be hijacked, so you try and get insurance out of it. Hijacking? Anyone? Okay. Let's just see. Okay. So in the area of emotional intelligence, emotional hijack is the occurrence of a phenomenon where a person's mind gets overtaken by his emotions. Your mind, this is happening. This it's not good. Where now you're not able to control it. Emotional hijack prohibits a person from taking look at and viewing their situation realistically. So like what we have said, and thanks for giving that example of something has happened to a customer. So for me, even I'm not looking at the problem of the goods have not arrived into the country for us to be able to supply to the customer. I am looking now, I'm just thinking of what the heck, you never deliver. This is what you always do. I am not looking at the situation realistically. The person under an emotional hijack may temporarily feel a cognitive loss of control and can be harmful. Think of a situation where you've had an emotional hijack of you as an individual, and even as a colleague that you have worked in and whatever. So all the time it's not hunky-dory. You're not going to be happy all the time. But when you get the emotional hijack, what happens? I was very taken aback one day when the president said that the judiciary, and now that they are having public dress downs, it's very unfair, where the president say, I can't do anything more about this corruption. It was the worst, lowest form of his leadership, display of his leadership, where he came and said, there's nothing that I can do about it. So what can you do about it? You have all these instruments and whatever. You must be able to do that. I take people to court, the judiciary releases them and stuff like that. I was just like, where will we turn to? If the leader cannot give us whatever, and you could see that he was visibly upset and angry. I keep on saying, when my daughter says, when I say, I'm not angry at you, I'm upset with you, because I'm upset because you've done this and this and that, compared to angry. Angry is another emotion that really can manifest itself in a way that you're not able to, you'll do things that you might regret, compared to I'm upset because you did not make your bed. I'm upset because you've not done your homework. I'm upset because you did not whatever. But the moment you say, I am very angry at you, try when someone says I'm angry at you compared to someone saying I'm upset at you. Those are two temporary states of emotions that have different reactions to the persons that they're being said to. So even when you look, your self-awareness will inform you the kind of adjectives that you will use, the kind of words that you will use, and the kind of emotions and reactions that you will towards that situation. So the following are the stages of emotional hijack: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Let's look at them. So in stage 1, what happens in stage 1? It just triggers. Oh, sorry, my whatever, you can see, I don't know, my wordings have jumbled up. You identifying the trigger. Identify is the first stage of emotional hijack, is to perceive and identify the event that should register as a threat. Someone please give us an example. What would you register as a threat? The first stage, emotional hijack. Just a very simple example of all things that we, even at the workplace, you know. You register as a threat. Event, an event would be, what is an event? For us to go out with learnings and to be able to see whether we are are emotionally hijacked or whether we hijack ourselves.
This is Lucy.
Some, yeah.
First thing,
Please speak up just a little. Thank you.
An event would be an occurrence. So, for example, I am the CEO and I see someone walking in at 8:30.
Yeah. True.
And I decided to respond with hostility.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm
Very
shouting,
true. Yeah.
and all these things.
Yeah. Because you know that we report to work at what time?
8.
At 8. Very true. An event, and you're just thinking 8:30, and then the first thing that goes to you or whatever. Do you know how much time you have lost? 30 minutes. You should be at your desk. You should have done this. Da, 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 da. You don't even know whether that person went to the customer and has brought a 10 million order in his briefcase. You get what I mean? But because of the emotions have already started getting into you. So emotion number 2, feeling a strong emotion. So the event is, I've come to work late. Thank you for that, whatever, isn't it? Well, we should be coming to work at 8. So what is a strong emotion? A strong emotion? How will you react to that? So the first is the event, and then the second one is the emotion. So let's go with the same example of someone has come to work late. You've seen them coming to the office late, whistling in with high heels and lipstick, you know, and you are thinking, really? Is this your mother's company or is it your company? So what's the strong emotion you will feel? Anyone? Or you can, who spoke with that example? You can also just continue with your example.
Now, the strong emotion is what we said, anger. You respond with anger.
Yeah.
And you're now shouting.
Yeah.
It could even be at the reception. You're just angry,
Yeah.
and you're now just shouting.
Exactly. And the receptionist is there, isn't it? Maybe the delivery persons, some people have come and their visitors coming in. So a strong emotion, you know. And this is, remember, it's always towards the negative form. It's not like, it's not anything around a happy circumstance. Okay. Number 3, reacting automatically. You respond based on the trigger of the strong emotion you felt. So what will you be what will you be doing at this stage? Stage 3, reacting automatically. What will you be saying? Some of the things that you will be saying to that person. Yeah, anyone? Please continue. First, you don't even say good morning, isn't it? Even that good morning is long forgotten. Oh my gosh, good morning, Catherine, how are you doing? You know, you're just like, you've come to work late. You always come to work late. You have to give an explanation as to why, whatever. Meet me at the HR office in the next 20 minutes. In fact, let's go right now. There's no need of waiting for another 20 minutes. We have to resolve this right now, isn't it? Reaction automatically of the kind of conversations and the kind of words that you use, you know, instead of maybe you would have said, hey, good morning, Catherine, how are you doing? How was your evening? You know, Is there a reason as to why you've come to work at 8:30 today? Today, not you are referring to this moment in time, not like last weekend, whatever. But listen to the first conversation. You always come to work late, and you are thinking, get me in the HR office. In fact, not right, that kind of conversation. So you've already from the event to the feeling that you have, to how you react, to your body language, to everything, and everyone at the reception is taken aback. And all what we'll be discussing the rest of the day is the altercation that was at the reception between Catherine and the supervisor, and oh lo 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 yo my oh yo 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 yo, let me tell you, boss, we are all at the coffee pot, whatever. I wonder whether she will survive. Oh, your boss, hey, leo kulikuwa na maneno, and then what happens, honestly, with the rest of the team members, is all the rumor mills now start coming up. Everything that anybody has always wanted to say is manifested around this area, isn't it? So that's how we begin rumors in the organization. That's how we start creating a bad culture. You think where culture starts? It starts from the area of emotional intelligence. Emotional hijacking has a strong basis of spoiling culture in an organization. And number 4 is feeling of regret. The fourth and last stage of an emotional hijack is feeling regret about your reaction. And I go back and I hold myself, because everybody, no matter how tough those people are in organizations, they still go back and say, I wish I had not done that, honestly. I went over, and especially if you call them out with a lot of diplomacy and with a lot of wanting to help. And anyway, I should not have reacted to that. But at that time, I was so upset. But because they have not gone through maybe self-awareness stage in your organization, do you have those trainings? Do you have those programs? Do you have people who mentor? Do you have people who coach? Do you give real-time feedback to people for you to know that these things should not be happening in an organization? Okay, so always feeling regret, and sometimes because of someone said here, pride and ego, we don't go back and apologize. But we should be able to know that if I do something wrong, I should be able to go back and apologize and say, I'm sorry it happened. It will not happen again. It got the better of me. I know that it was not a good place, but will you genuinely please forgive me? And let's carry forward as how it was before. But if you have a culture of everybody, the people never get reprimanded because of bad behavior around emotional intelligence. People will always come into organization and leave the bad potato, because they don't want to be governed like that. They don't want to be led by people who do not have a strong emotional intelligence in terms of, even if the situation is bad, how do we address that? Yeah. Anyone with a good with an example that they can see around emotional hijack, 4 stages, will you be able to apply it in the organization, where you say reaction, the event, it could be, well, people going against the policy, which is true, but how do we, how does it manifest itself, and till it gets to the regret stage, and how do you make sure that it doesn't get to the regret stage? Anybody an example? An experience, please share. How did you resolve it? Has it continued to erode your culture in the organization? Please, someone help us give an example. I'm sure we all have good examples around. Anyone? No? You happy around? Okay, great. So please make sure that around the issues of whatever. So how do you get your emotion? How do you make sure that the people you lead, or even you as an individual, getting your emotional intelligence back on track? It's broken within the areas that we saw. You are not self-aware of who you are. You always react to situations in a negative way. It could be small situations, big situations, especially in these COVID times. We need to have a lot of empathy around people, and how we react and how the business is going. So the three main questions to ask yourself: what are the differences between how you see yourself and how others see you? You know, who am I? This is to get a sense of how your self-perception, how you see yourself, differs from your reputation, how others see you. This is my own self-perception. I am perfect. Me, I am whatever. But when you get feedback from how people see you, you will be very, very surprised. So for you to start getting to understand who you are, it is important for you to ask people to give you feedback. And one of the best ways to be able to get feedback is through a 360 feedback, whatever. And if you are not sure that you'll be able to get objective feedback, why don't you start from the people that you know most, the people who love you best, the people who have the best interest at your heart, immediate family members, your siblings, your, let's say you have a business partner, really authentic sharing from their heart. Wewe Catherine, hata ukiambiwa auskizangi, you know, and one of the areas is that we never listen. We always want to jump into other people's. We are mbelembelez, mchiuzia paka, we know everything. Or even get to your parents and say, as a child, how do you see me? It's a real good place to where people, you're in a safe space where maybe you wouldn't be at your place of work, but look for a safe place where you can really get feedback from your spouse or from your children. Your children will tell you a lot. You, mommy, you're so curly. And you, daddy, you're so curly. We can't approach you and we would like something like this. Just to take an assessment and ask them tangible examples of what do you mean by that. When you say I'm curly, what do you mean by that? You know, and they will give you things that you really never learned about yourself, because sometimes we really need to have a healthy check on ourselves, call ourselves to our meeting, and sometimes that meeting will need other third parties to come through. And if, of course, you've got a good culture in your organization, you can get honest feedback from your peers, from your juniors, from your seniors, and people who also work outside your stakeholders. They will be able to give you really good feedback. So I encourage you to do that. Start asking yourselves, you know, take up a coach and stuff like that. What matters to you in life? When you get back your assessment from your coach or from your team members or whatever, why I put coach there is because I think a coach will do such a good job for you, is to inform you on how to improve and what steps will I make. Really difficult decisions, hard decisions for me to be able to get that. If I'm not a good listener, then it means that I have to really think. Every time someone else is talking, I have to give them time. That is a habit or a culture or a character that I have to cultivate. This gets me annoyed, and this is such a small thing. Someone coming to work 15 minutes later. If I'm the kind of person who looks at effort instead of looking at productivity, can I start thinking that if 15 minutes, then I can tell them you have to work for 15 minutes at lunch hour. If one lunch hour is 1 hour, then work 45, but I'm working towards it. I am not getting upset. I am trying to accommodate this kind of habit that I am trying to work around it and to become a better person. And the last question is, what changes will I make to achieve these goals? Be very specific for you to be able to hone your emotional intelligence. Those three questions are extremely important. How people perceive me and what the reality on the ground, what matters to me, really, family matters to me, my career matters to me, finances matter to me, good governance matter to me, but how do I show up in all that aspect? And finally, what changes am I willing to make for me to be extremely whatever? So that's the meeting that I would like us to call ourselves this afternoon. So I would like us to go to the last. Any question? Any question around there? Any questions? Can you see yourselves in that? Okay. My last bit of emotional intelligence is around the 5 competencies of emotional intelligence, how they appear. And I'm sure you know this. It's just like we are trying to wrap up around what we have discussed. Your self-awareness, who you are, how you appear, some examples that we have given, and the emotional hijack, the kind of people that we find in the society and our place. So what are the key five competencies of emotional intelligence? I'm sure you've seen all these over and over above. It goes round and round, never stops, and we said the basis of emotional intelligence is our style of communication, how we're able to accommodate the other person's feelings, how the other person is able to accommodate my feelings, and being able to meet in the middle so that things can move in the direction that they should be. We will have less conflicts when we are whatever we are aware of our own emotional intelligence, and also the benefits far outweigh the cons that would ever be around the issues of emotional intelligence. So the first one is self-awareness, self-management, self-motivation, empathy, and social skills, things which are so important in the life of a human being. So for us, I would like us to look at each of them in depth. What is self-awareness? How can we develop self-awareness? What is self-management? What is self-motivation, empathy, and the social skills that are around the EI quadram and the competencies, that whatever. Any question? And we see all this in terms of even looking at leaders in organizations, looking at a driver on the road. Do you think more Matatu people have a lot of emotional intelligence? Do you think, again, do we label them? Do we stereotype them? Do we have prejudice against them? So things like that, that really, we almost say each industry has its own way of dealing with emotions. But if we come complete, even the pressures that are within the matatu industry, a matatu driver and his conductor, what makes them behave the way that they behave? You remember what pressure brings into whatever, and someone says, during this COVID time, the pressure is real for us to stay afloat. And when we go back to normal, whatever normal means, look at, think critically today of the driver, the matatu driver and the conductor. Why do they behave the way they are? What is the pressure that leads them to behave that? Perhaps if they were aware of their own emotions, would they be behaving the way they behave, in a very aggressive and because they tend to be more aggressive in terms of how they run their business? Is it the nature of the business that has made them like that, or all of them came from the same school of thought and became like that? I once interviewed in my earlier whatever. I once interviewed a driver who had worked in the matatu industry for a long time. He was a brilliant driver, knew the whatever, and he says, when you get into that industry, it changes you a lot as a person. Even when you're a calm person, you want the best, the pressure is so much, the behaviors all become the same. We tend to talk the same way, and sometimes we manifest it at our family level. And I want to get out of that because I can see it's getting into me over and over again. Sometimes when we work in organizations which have a bad culture, sometimes we can get sucked into that because it's so corrosive and it's so emotive. We all get sucked into that, and it starts becoming our inherent character. But it takes a strong-willed person to come and say, I don't want to be there. You remember where we said how you start looking into that? How do I get to change the habit, because I've called myself to a meeting and I know this is not something that is good for me. So every time that you get into a situation that you think has started becoming a habit, find out what is the reason behind it. Is it the industry? Is it the people that I'm hanging around? Is it the circumstances that are leading me? And then you come and say, but this is not the kind of person that I am. Deep down, I know this is not meant for me. And you take the hard decision to get out of this. Being aware and getting to take the hard decision is always the step that will make you a better person. Then we will not have all this unhappiness, all these depression cases around us. We will have a more healthy, balanced society. And that's what we aim for when we are all aware of our emotions. So self-awareness. Under the area of self-awareness, we are looking at identifying your values and your beliefs as an individual. And what informs your values and beliefs is the family traditions you are exposed to when you are growing up, the environment that you grew up in, and then after that, the values that the organizations that you went to work in, the schools that you went to. A lot of things informs values, but what values do you ascribe to as a human being? Skills audit. Identify your skills. You remember the IQ and the EQ, the technical foundations that you have as a HR or as whatever career that you are in. So you identify your skills and how do you rate yourselves within those skills, your self-awareness, your communication. Are you passive? Are you passive aggressive? Are you aggressive? Are you aggressive or assertive? And what kind of a society are we as a country? We are a passive aggressive country. We are like the mouse who bites you and then at night it eats your heel and then so that's the same thing, is that we never want to, because we are afraid of conflicts, we tend to, most of the time as a country, passive, but in the end we go to the coffee pot and say iwezekani, haezi fanya hivyo, but we are not giving you feedback of saying, Catherine, this is what you do. But we are just wishy-washy, touchy-touchy, not saying the whatever feely-feely, but in the background, we go and attack you completely. That is something that we need to understand. What is my communication style as a person? I should be assertive. I should be passive. I should not be sitting in the background. Personality type, what's my personality? So when you do the 16 Myers-Briggs, please go today and find your personality type. They are the analysts, they are diplomats, they are the centrals, and the explorers. Where do you fall? And how do you make sure that as an individual, you're able to come and say, this is my personality. When I'm working with if I'm an analyst and I have to work with an explorer, how do we meet each other in the middle? And what is good for us, the type A, the type B personalities, the sanguines and that kind of stuff. How do I show myself up in a conflict situation? Identify your conflict style. Are you the kind of, do you avoid conflicts? Are you accommodating in conflicts? Are you compromising? Are you competing? Or are you a collaborator? So very important for you to and because conflicts, I've said that will always be there in the organization. How do you make sure that you resolve conflicts in a way that you don't come out feeling, and I didn't win. He aggressed me, but ameshinda saa zote anashinda. But how do you come back feeling that both sides feel that they have won? And leadership, what kind of a leader are you? Everybody is a leader in their own right. Are you a directing leader? Are you coaching? Are you supervising? Are you delegating? We also look, are you a diplomatic leader? Are you a tyrant? Are you a laissez-faire kind of a leader? Do you have situational leadership? All those kind of things. But when it really calls, do you direct? Do you coach? Do you support? Do you delegate? So for you to all these things, when you look at the values today, I would like you to come out really with action points for you as an individual, and also things that you can work with your team when you say, what are my life values? What are the values for the organization? What skills do we have? What's my communication style? What's the best communication style, depending on the circumstances that I'm in? What is my personality? You know, how do people perceive me? This is what I think I am. Is that the same thing that people perceive me? How do I manage conflicts? And how is my leadership style? Do people see the bigger vision that I have created? Do people want to follow my vision? Do people trust me as a leader? Do people give me feedback? Do they critique in a way that I take that criticism and I'm able to move forward? Okay. So self-management, what is self-management? Biological impulse driven emotions, individuals with high self-management ability to govern yourself, to regulate yourself, regulate emotions to handle stress, control impulses, and perceive their overcoming obstacles, perseverance of the overcoming obstacles, express emotions appropriately. Could be a difficult situation, but this is how I'm going to say it. Set and monitor progress towards goals, is adaptable to change, so my own self-management. This is me as a person. I manage my time. I coordinate well. I plan well around my task and my responsibilities. I am well governed as an individual. I feel holistic. I know where my emotions are, how my physical capability is. I know how my spiritual groundness is. I know where my financial capabilities, ability to be a whole person and be able to interrogate myself from time to time, how I feel as a person. Because if all those things are broken, your financial aspect is broken, your social aspect is broken, your physical aspect is broken, your emotional aspect is all broken, then you're not able to whatever. But what we're also trying to say is that we are not perfect human beings. There's always room for progress for us to be able to whatever. So setting goals and setting powerful goals, converting your dreams into goals, change behavior to assure that the goals are achieved. So what's self-motivation? Refers to the ability to do what needs to be done without influence from other people or situations. You have the self-drive, self-motivation. Don't we all come and say, I want a self-motivated team. I'm self-motivated. So how do you self-motivate? Even if it is the circumstance is as bad as it should be, but we realize that without my own inherent self-motivation, ability to have the extra drive, to take the extra initiative, to know that if an opportunity comes, I'll be able to grab it and people will be able to give it to me because they know that I am self-motivated. So that is very important in the area of the competencies of emotional intelligence. Empathy, that is something that is now so big in the world. Let's have empathy around this situation. The Black Lives Matters is all about empathy. Leaders who have empathy around COVID times. Let's be more empathetic around the situation that it is. So the ability to understand others' emotions, make up, see things from other people's point of view, treat people with respect. It earns you respect and loyalty. Empathy is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. So are you empathetic or sympathetic? Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another, compared to, okay, itakuwa sawa, but really putting yourself in that person's shoes and making sure that that can be done. And social skills, the outcome of all the other elements of EI, how you show up, effective communication and enhanced interpersonal skills, proficiency in building relationships and managing networks, persuasive and influential, uh, uh, and attractive, equipped to handle conflicts. How is the society? Because I keep on saying that we are social beings. How do I show up in the society? And the society does not just mean your place of work of the communities that you live in, but the other, even how you write to the other person, how you communicate, verbal and we say it's oral and verbal communication. No, verbal and written communication. Sorry about that. So, how we show up, the social skills that we should have at a party. This is the kind of party that it is. How do I rock that party? You know, this situation. When I go to church, when I go to the mosque, this is how I socialize. You know, whatever. You are real as it is. The same Catherine you see in the office is the same Catherine you want to see at home, is the same Catherine that you want to see in traffic, is the same Catherine that whatever. Just I am so self-aware that it is me appearing in different situations. I have not left Catherine of the office. I leave it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm a different Catherine. Then I take another Catherine and in another skin. It is me. I am vulnerable and I accept myself as a work in progress, and I'm aware of whom I am, of who I am. I'm self-regulating, I'm self-managing myself. My social skills continue to improve within the situation and the context that I am in. So that is the overall. This is a nice picture just to show you where everything plugs in: emotional awareness, self-assessment, self-confidence, you know, just the whole array of the emotional intelligence space. Okay. Any question around the competencies of emotional intelligence? Any question around self-awareness, self-management? Very quiet. I can see people now starting to say, smelling their kitchens. Food is being served on the table. Any question around that? So it's a good place to be in terms of the competencies of self. And I would also like you to, even when you run trainings internally, look at the competencies of the competencies of emotional intelligence, and plug them in, anchor them at your hiring, and highlight them as one of your key drivers in recruitment. Is that okay? Great. So signs of high IQ, we all know them. You think about feelings, you pause, you pausing is meaning that you look at every situation and say, how is it going to manifest itself? What kind of emotions am I going to be hijacked by my emotions? And then you go through the four stages and say, no, I'm not going to be there at all. I have paused, I have thought about it. You strive to control your thoughts. You benefit from criticism. You show authenticity. This is me. I am authentic. You may demonstrate empathy. You praise others. You always not wanting, you're not always the one who is always right. You know, you praise others. You bring a good vibe around it. You give helpful feedback. You apologize when you're wrong. You forgive and forget. Many of us say, oh, I've forgiven, but I will never forget. Then there is no need. You keep to your commitments. You help others, you protect yourself from emotional sabotage. Emotional sabotage is the emotional hijack. Okay, so qualities of people with high emotional intelligence, and you can attest to this. It's things that we all know. We are not perfectionists, they're not perfectionists. They know how to have a work-life balance and play. They embrace change. They don't easily get distracted because they look at the facts and not the person. You know, we are looking at the core thing that we are addressing, the core issues. They're empathetic, they know their strengths and weaknesses, they're self-aware, they are self-motivated, they don't dwell in the past, they focus on the positive, and they also set boundaries. If this is not working for me, then I have to set the boundaries. I'll work with you, but this is the boundaries that I will set for me to be able to work with you and to be able to relate with you. Okay. So emotional, it determines attitude and tenacity, impacts character and integrity, increases your social capital, it raises ability to motivate and influence, influences productivity and efficiency. Very clear cut in terms of how we show up at our places of work, the teams that we want to work with, the C-suite. If you just tell them, well, this is our mirror of emotional intelligence. What will it do for us? It will be able to do all these things. Okay. Finally, never speak out of anger, never act out of fear, never choose from impatience, but wait, and peace will always appear, you know? So being in tune with your emotional intelligence is essential to your success. that marks the end of our webinar. Fantastic. Questions? Answers? The end? I like this saying a lot. Life is 10% of what appears to me and 90% of how I react. Sorry, I forgot the F over here. Sorry about that. Now I take it back to you guys. Questions, concerns, was it useful? Are you taking away some things that you can impact? Anything, guys? Was it helpful? What did you learn out of it? Did it meet your expectations? Dan, are you there? Anyone? Stanley, Christine, Stella, Rhoda, Faith, Betty, Dadoni, say something. Hawa?
Okay, I can say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I came in late, but I found you ongoing, and it is the way you have done it is very educative, it's very informative. It's actually, before we even go and apply it to others, to me, it's applying to myself. And in the various positions or capacities that I am in, it is not just meant for the workplace, in our all other interactions, be it in the family, be it in the other social life we are in. It is very much applicable, and it is quite an eye-opener, and it is helping me to understand even myself better and how I relate, because even in my leadership positions, I have made many mistakes in terms of my emotional intelligence, and it is helping me also to check on myself and to do that self-awareness. So it's very, very important.
Wow. Okay, great. Happy to hear that we can relate with the discussion around emotional intelligence and how can we become better human beings even before we start leading other people, and that's what we want here. Great. Someone else? Thank you for the comments that are streaming in. Helpful. Take away good lessons around it. Well done. Well done. Someone else? Someone else? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Thank you for the feedback. We appreciate. Okay.
Maybe I just add to what she has said. From my side, we carry home, rather the area that that I found really very helpful and applicable in my daily work is about how to categorize people and how to understand them. And I think I'm living here a better person, knowing how to handle every type of a person. For example, those who complain, because you always have those in the workplace. What I learned is how to be able to paraphrase that complaint and together find a solution. So for me, it's really been a good session, a very informative session for me. And I believe that when I live here, I will be able to understand how to manage my emotions and also how to be able to understand why and how others also react in the way they're reacting. So thank you so much. I think my expectation when I started, I'd said I really wanted to learn how to design and other people's feelings. So I believe that gap somehow has been filled. And I also, during the session, I also reflected on myself and self-awareness, and I've identified maybe areas that I believe that really needs me to improve on, so that I'm also leading as an example. Yeah, so thank you very
It's
much.
very good. Yeah, well done. Yeah. So we always take things, and I'm happy that you've been able just to get more information and interrogate your own self and some of the things that you'll be doing at your workplace, looking at the way people appear and some of the things that you'll be able to do. Yeah, well done. Thank you, Mary. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Great. Yeah. Wow. For me, I keep on saying that I always get a chance to learn, interact, make good networks around. And that's what we should also aspire, in terms of when you exchange these things, when we exchange the notes and the learnings, then we're able to take back feedback that we are able to learn from each other, reflect back and say it was worthwhile our time. So until next time, I wish you God's blessing that things, whatever pressures that you have, you're able to look at them and you're able to overcome them. We're here to support each other. Let's continue supporting each other. And as HR practitioners, please make sure that you get someone to help you even during these hard times, that you are not alone. We are all in it together. All of us are in it together. And how do we come out stronger as a professional, as a professional group, and also how do we come out stronger as individuals during these COVID times? So I hope to see you next time. I was very privileged and I was very lucky to have facilitated this. And as you know that the Academy runs very good training, so we hope to see you in the subsequent ones. If you want your certificate, you go to the website. If you have any questions,